Hello, Vault Dwellers and Wastelanders. My name is Kyle, and I will be your overseer for today's episode of Vault Broadcast, where we interview Oliver, who is from Civil Fallout, a great and interesting community highlighting page over on Instagram and so much more. We did a deep dive on his Instagram account where they share memes, Fallout facts, and I think coolest of all, highlights from other people in the community. I really like it because they are following a similar mission to us here, which is that we just really want to give people exposure for their craft and their dedication. So this interview meant a lot to me. We get really nerdy with what it's like to be a content creator online. I hope this might help other people. If you've ever been interested in starting an account of your own, or you just want to maybe work on how to schedule yourself a little better, something I can always work on myself. This was just such a fun interview, and it really emphasizes that all boats can rise together. It's a great idea. It's one I've shared for a long time, and I'm very thankful to have Oliver on here. I do want to say before we dive into it, if you like this show and the content we're producing, you could go over to our coffee page, ko-fi.com, and give us a financial contribution, either a one-time donation or become a member in our brand new tiers. One of the most exciting to me is that we are going to start a Fallout zine. It's going to be in the style of vault-tec. It's very cool looking. I've already got it like sort of sketched and planned out. But one of the big things is that I'm looking to get an actual office space to do these recordings. Right now I'm in a basement, and it's fun, but it's not sound treated. It works well for me with this gorgeous set background, but I don't really have room to grow, and that's what we're looking to do. We put out about 6 pieces of original content each week. It's a lot of content, and I do it all with passion and love and authenticity. So if you want to help us grow that, you could get in as a founding member. If you get the chance, please, everyone watching can like, comment, and subscribe. The free and easy things we can all do, and that I do to other creators. Those comments really help tell the algorithm that you enjoyed it. So you don't have to write an original novel if you don't want. Something as simple as enjoyed the show is lovely. But one that I always prompt people to do is tell me the names of other creators you like and you'd like to see on the show here. This is a community show for you with strong ambitions that we are going to get open lines so you can call in, but we already have an app linked below that you can leave us a voice message. You can send in some questions. This is going to turn from just interviewing creators into that plus open lines where other Fallout fans who maybe don't have a big following or a background or a cosplay thing or whatever, anyone can call in and they can give us their info about the Fallout universe, what they love, what they want to see tweaked, what they're looking forward to. We want this to be a true Fallout community show. So Vault Broadcast, follow us all across the internet. vaultbroadcast.com will get you to our Substack newsletter. You can subscribe so you never miss a show. And if you want to check out any of the other works that we do, like the TTRPG, go over to overseerkyle.com. Nice and easy. But I'm going to stop blathering now, and I've got to toss it over to Past Kyle. Past Kyle, take it away. Hello, everyone. I am sitting down with Oliver of Civil Fallout, a Instagram account, YouTube page, and so much more. It's not just Fallout that they're covering, but also other Bethesda subjects and products. So I want to toss it over to Oliver. This is a great time to sort of introduce yourself and give us a little introduction about how you got into this space of creating memes for the community, creating a place that brings other content creators together for Fallout facts, news, and more. So Oliver, welcome aboard, and maybe you could just give us a little bit of setup about what you do.
Yes, first of all, obviously, thank you for having me. As we'll probably say on the screen, but it's obvious anyway. So my name's Oliver, Civil Fallout, and I see up. We'll probably get into it quickly anyway. But Civil Fallout is just the Fallout arm of just a larger group of pages. They're called Civil, so Civil Scrolls, Civil Bethesda, Civil From Software. They cover pretty much all sorts of games that we think to cover. Civil Fallout was the first of them, starting 8 years ago. So I was a much younger person back then. And obviously the concept back then was very much kind of saying, at the time, kind of the meme spaces are very much full of reposting and the same sort of impact font stuff that was everywhere and just stealing. So it was kind of a space to say, let's just do our own stuff. Let's just kind of have a space where it's just pretty much daily, just make our own stuff, even if it's terrible. And the original stuff was terrible. And over these 8 years, as I've kind of grown, my content has as well. So I've now moved on to doing kind of things like news, facts. So going beyond just the original memes that I used to do, and now I'm doing a lot more. And obviously, as you kind of alluded to and you'll probably get onto shortly, it's also gone from just kind of, oh, I can make some memes and just post them, to being kind of a, let's use the platform to elevate and support other creators who maybe don't have that sort of voice or not managed to do things like be able to pump out daily content like meme creators can.
I think that's a fantastic reason and almost mission to be a part of with it. And it's something we emphasize and feel very strongly over here as well. That was kind of the idea that got us connected to begin with. Is I put out a call to all creators who are interested in hanging out and talking with one another. And I got to tell you, this has been wonderful because I didn't know your content before. Apologies for my embarrassment, but the algorithms are not always kind to us. I say this every episode, but it is so easy to lose track of your favorite creators because, you know, just one day it de-escalates people or it stops showing someone. And that's what we really wanted to do here. So I'm super thankful for you being willing to come on. I'm thankful that we all have such a great community that wants to pull together in these ways. So you said this started the whole way back 8 years ago. That sounds like a phenomenal journey. Now, when you started it, were you just an Instagram account? Where all did you reach out to? Because I'm about to pull us up on the side screen here. I'll actually pull up your tap link. It's like a link tree for everyone out there. You could just see how many projects they have going on over there, from Fallout to Elder Scrolls to 40K. I mean, I could call them all out, but I'm just going to scroll. This list is long and noteworthy. So where'd you begin with it?
Yeah, God, where to start? So this is noted about 8 years ago it started, and obviously I was much younger. I think it was around 18, 19 at the time. So I've obviously grown a lot in terms of the content. So it originally started with just me, and as I said, it was kind of the Fallout space at the time. Fallout memes was very congested. Everyone knows the kind of the thumbs up Vault Boy memes that was around everywhere, or the power core, or how's it last this long, confusion memes. That was kind of prevalent, and there was a lot of kind of content stealing back then. So it was kind of a space saying, can we just make a space that's just original content, no complications, just kind of doing that? And it's kind of escalated from that point where kind of it originally began with just Fallout, and a couple of years later I turned around and said, I like Elder Scrolls, let's just do a Civil Scrolls as well. And then as I started increasing the pages, realized I needed some help, so then began to bring on people to join the teams. And in its kind of heyday, there was up to 20 different accounts covering different content. Obviously is a bit of ambitious, and I think kind of there was a bit of an elastic effect where we kind of thought we need to focus our efforts a little bit more. So we kind of, the teams have grown and changed. We've kind of gone, we went for a period where we have up to 100 admins across our pages. We're now down to, I think, about 20 across the kind of the 5-6 that are active. And we've also gone to more kind of individuals leading accounts. So I've now kind of wholly focused on leading Civil Fallout, which has always been my passion, and we have the likes of kind of Michael focusing on Civil Scrolls. So it's gone through its kind of stages and iterations about what we want to be as a kind of a group. So as you see, kind of a quite recently kind of renovated kind of link tree thing. We now are trying to kind of be quite concise what our identity is, and it's simply just kind of creating original content, having kind of a universal standard about what we do. And all of us have the same mission, which is to kind of make sure that in our kind of spaces that even some of the accounts that are smaller than others or bigger than others, that we try to use it to kind of give that platform again to the creators in the areas. So whether we go to Comic-Con events and kind of shout out cosplayers we see there, or even just sharing as much as we can to some of the smaller accounts who, again, struggle to get the same sort of platform, because it's so easy for us to kind of mass produce things like facts and memes. But for people to cosplay, you can't be mashing those out. You could only really make one of those every few months. So we've all got that same mission now, which is to kind of support others as much as we can.
That's lovely. I just want to pause for just a second. This is such an, I don't know, offhanded comment here to say, I really got to compliment how organized your tap link tree style page is. These sites made life a bit simpler for us. I remember content creating before we had such accessible, just simple link pages. But even then, when people start to grow out, their pages get hard to navigate, and there are so many features, and everyone jams everything into it, understandably, but it makes it then almost equally hard for someone to navigate it. And it's just great that as I sit here and I'm showing it off on screen, I mean, this is so well organized. If you want to find any of your content on Instagram, boom, then you've got like your different kind of like one account social spreads, and then you're back into it. So I just want to give kudos to whoever on your team, you or others that organized all of this, that's very easy for people to dive into. So real kudos in a space that people kind of overwhelm their audience and the such. It's something I'm always paying attention to myself. you don't want to overload people. And I really like that part of your backstory there, where you're saying grew outwards, got maybe, I don't want to say you were over ambitious, but based on what you said, the elastic effect, you create so many things. It's hard to keep tabs on them. You do risk losing a brand identity or a core mission focus. So it, as you're saying, it contracted back a little bit then, and now you have, what was it, from 100 or so moderators down to maybe like 20 focused ones. That all seems very sensible to me. How did you go about finding people that wanted to step up to those positions? Because that's something I'm interested in too, is always tapping people from the community. And sometimes it's as easy as asking the audience, but other times that it can be a little bit hard to get feedback. Some people are a little nervous, some people maybe overcommit. How's that experience been for you, and where did that start, bringing those people on board?
So it's a really interesting aspect, which is recruitment. It's a really strange thing. It's the hardest thing is recruiting for something that isn't paid, because God, if I was only enough to pay people, then God, that'd be lovely.
Lovely.
So obviously that's the hardest part, is that especially in our smaller sizes, back where obviously when a Silver Fighter, for example, was 100,000 now, but it wasn't always that big. So when you had kind of maybe at most when it was stages it's 20, 30k, or even some of the pages that were in their kind of early infancy, trying to bring people on and try and say it's really good, it's worth hopping on supporting. You have to find people who share that the same passion, the same reason why we created them in the first place. Say people who are like, they want to create original content and not kind of feel like they're being swamped by the reposting accounts, and then ultimately giving them kind of a platform to do so themselves. But it's also some of them, if they have the passion to create content, also their own personal things they're trying to work on. So it's also offering the means for them to also promote and shout out their own stuff, as well as supporting us. So it's kind of it's double-edged, where they support our mission, but also they can use our own platforms to also support their own projects at the same time. So that was really the best way I think we found to kind of support them, or bring on board, was to really make sure that they knew that this was an area where they could work with a team and with others, but also to support what they're already working towards and give them a voice where it is hard sometimes to break in as a completely new account.
That's beautiful. I guess even recently I've heard something similar. I was listening to some YouTubers talk about the editors that they've hired on board. I mean, that's, I think, a lot of YouTubers' dreams, is to get big enough that they'd have the money to hire an editor. And I'm just always interested that a lot of the people that seem to step up for editing positions are themselves already YouTubers, which makes sense. I mean, the people, they're using the same skills, they're using the same toolkit. But that seems like a perfect marriage of the person who wants to highlight their own work. They want to get a sort of a breakout there, but they're really interested, willing, or devoted to helping another mission and cause go along. So I might go down our list of questions here and just say, has there been any really memorable moments for you of bringing on board some of those people, any smaller creators that you've really been able to highlight in particular that have, I don't know, kind of maybe given you the warm fuzzies that you had that opportunity, or maybe even someone out there that you saw grow in success because of your pushes, your efforts, and your highlighting of their ability?
It's hard to name. I can't think of any particular great examples, but I know one quite heartwarming experience I've had is that. So since doing this, I think it was only the past couple of years we kind of switched gears to be basically saying we're happy to support, really shout out people. And it's when I went to New Vegas Day last year for my first time that basically one of the cosplayers came up to me and said that, like, the impact that's had. So to have that real life interaction of someone saying kind of just my virtual offhand shouting them out process of collaborating with them, for someone to come up to me and say that it's helped them so much to get that kind of notice and interaction and particularly reach that they didn't have before, was probably quite a massive highlight for me, to kind of realize that there was a real life impact on a real life person who finally feels kind of a bit more seen than they would have seen before. Because as we've discussed earlier, the algorithm is not always very kind, and creatives especially really struggle now with Instagram's kind of switches with algorithms and this kind of preference for the kind of viral content.
Yeah, as a guy who's always very I've been very afraid of YouTube for years. This is sort of my big first, I think, really strong dive into YouTube that I've been committed to for months, making podcasts and things related to Fallout. And it's I've had a back and forth on it because, like you just mentioned, these algorithms change so quickly, and oftentimes I think it feels like for creators we start creating for the algorithm, not for the audience. And I'm very adverse to that. I am a guy who just really is in it for the passion. I like what I like, and I want to put that out there, and I want it to resonate with the people that like that as well. And so I think that's very noble what you guys have done. And to hear that, a meme page where you started out in just small infancy and now to have a real tangible impact on people's lives, that again has to be some sort of warm fuzzy, like you were just saying, this good feeling that you're actually making a difference out there. And I don't know, hats off to you, man. That's a really, really cool experience. And I look forward to the day that we ever get sort of impact like that. Now, I might ask, how do you balance that sort of approach now? How do you balance news, memes, community highlights? It's an ambitious workload. It's something that I think I myself might get a little distracted. I get a little too focused on one silo or the other. So, do you have any like mechanisms, any tricks, any scheduling you do, maybe amongst your team or the rest, to keep some sort of balance like that?
I think one of the most important things is there's an ebb and flow really with kind of pleasing the algorithm, but pleasing the followers. Where, for example, kind of years gone by, I used to create massive lore posts on Instagram where it could be up to 7 slides of just kind of lore and kind of really going into topics. But then in time realizing that it wouldn't do very well. People maybe didn't show interest or the algorithm wasn't pushing it. And there's definitely a level of sacrifice where you have to go, okay, at some point the effort to reach isn't really hitting. But then sometimes saying that, no, actually there's a mid ground. So we now, for example, facts, even though they're not our best performing content, there's something we do regularly. So for example, I myself on Silver Fallout, every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, I post a fact for Fallout. They don't do particularly great, but that's not really the point. It's because our audience like them, so we continue doing it. So we do have that balance between memes that will always do very well versus facts that we know the audience does like. And so we make sure we kind of keep that balance of, here's a consistent thing that we'll keep doing for everyone, but we will keep doing memes anyway because it just helps us grow, continue kind of our mission of being able to get as much content, as much out to everyone as we possibly can. But also, yeah, as I said, there's an unfortunate ebb and flow to make sure the algorithms please, but also make sure the followers do get what they follow us for.
That is very well said. And I really like that you have such an accessible post to this. Want more than just Fallout memes? You got your facts, your days you're listing it, the gaming confessions on there, and giving a time for it. I think that's really smart. I don't know that I've ever seen such a thought out kind of announcement about what someone's doing on a page like this. I'm sure someone else out there does it, but I've just not seen it or had it so memorable. I think this is a wise approach to it. And I really like that great sage advice there of you're trying to please two different audiences and out of necessity, right? You do need the exposure so you can keep motivating yourself, keep growing your audience, keep amplifying the message to new people. But then also you're really trying to give them the real core content that they might want, especially for the people that prefer the deep cuts, that prefer the more lore-centric stuff, again, fact-based. I think that's really great what you're doing. And clearly with the numbers that your account has gathered, it seems like that has worked out rather well. Can I ask, and I'm not expecting you to have numbers off the top of your head by any stretch, but even just loosely, has making a schedule, because this is only like 35 weeks old, this post, so not years long. Has this sort of content schedule, do you think that's helped you grow? Either maybe helped you personally persevere, keep going, or do you also maybe think the audience has liked that? There's always talk about the audience enjoying a schedule, knowing what to expect and when. So have you maybe put it like anything like that together in your mind? Any thoughts of if this sort of schedule has served you well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I say in the past year has been across our pages the best growth they've seen. So whether for whatever reason, I couldn't say for certain why. Fallout is quite obvious. The past year, obviously, we had the Fallout TV show, which obviously I can't deny did numbers for us in particular. But also Silver Scrolls, which obviously not had its own massive announcement other than Oblivion recently, but the past year has also been quite a boom year for that one. And I'd say in the past years when we really started implementing these schedules, so I can't say for certain, because as I said, the facts themselves don't do particularly great. The confession posts we do don't do particularly great in terms of numbers, in terms of kind of the posts for followers and everything like that. But one thing we do know is that it kind of keeps us to a standard, and I know people do appreciate the facts, do appreciate the confessions. So I think I don't see it as a level of kind of do we gain followers, but more do we retain them to kind of make sure that they feel that they've already followed, they're going to stick around because of that. Because I've always had the attitude of, whenever I've had interactions with some of the admins who feel maybe that the facts don't give what they should, they say they'll only get, sometimes they'll be like, only got like 1,000 likes, or sometimes they don't get much at all. My point being, a lot of people will follow for a meme, but will stick around for the rest. And so we always try to make sure we keep that balance, because at the end of the day, the algorithm doesn't always push that sort of content, but people see it and they'll say, oh. So I can't say necessarily the scheduling has really helped, but I think it's at least kept us to a standard to make sure we keep getting that content out. Even if it is just an internal schedule for ourselves, make sure we do keep delivering that content on quite a methodical level.
Oh, I think that's great. I really do. I mean, I'm not trying to overstate it and oversay it, but I think that's one thing probably a lot of creators, I've been doing a lot of YouTube study lately, so pardon me for bringing that up over and over again, but hearing how many creators, they start on one mission, but then it doesn't get traction, it pulls low numbers, so then they pivot, they might start creating things that their heart's not really into, and that I think is where you get some of that burnout energy coming in, where you feel, or people feel like they're just creating something to check a box, not because it delivers something new, something unique, something educational, but just because, well, everyone's trying to float here in the algorithm. Let me pull that back up on the side here. I mean, I think these posts are just wonderful, and maybe we can take a look at some others here too. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the kind of the creation process you go through when making memes or any sort of fact posts. This is a great one here. Sorry, Mom, but being an NCR Ranger is not just a phase. Like, I really like this. It's some great art in there. How's your creation process start? Let's you actually, you know what? Why don't you choose what style we're talking about, facts or anything of the sort, memes? How do you go about beginning the process on your part?
With memes is an easy one, because that's really, if I see a picture, I'm like, oh, that's very fun, I can make something out of that. Then obviously I hop across it and I pick something, I quickly just make it quickly. So it is, that one's kind of a ad hoc kind of, hopefully I can think of something. With facts, there's something I more block prepare, and there's something where kind of I kind of just, it's a matter of almost just thinking around my head, okay, what sort of topic? Or amount of times I turn to my partner and say, quick, pick a topic, pick a Fallout topic. And she's like, what? And she's like, pick a topic. And she'll say, like, the Enclave. I'm like, okay, I'll go and do some research, read into that again, and then say, okay, I'll make some facts on that, prepare that. So I'd like to say it's very organized, very coordinated, and it's kind of a deep thing, but it's really at the moment, can I think of something? Which is where, at the time, it feels very chaotic. But then, in retrospect, when I think about the fact that I've somehow generated thousands of posts, I think I'm almost impressed that this chaos seems to keep working. And yeah, I can't say I never had burnout, because anyone who posts for any extended period of time will get burnout. But I think there's always a level of kind of it's so easy to think of something, either, even if I don't like it, I know other people like that, I can be like, I can make that anyway. And as I said, it goes back to as well that things like the scheduling does help to kind of keep things, even for us burnouts, even with the periods where the creative juices aren't flowing, and having things like those sort of schedules just keeps you on track to make sure I keep things out, even if I'm feeling a bit kind of like it's not really hitting at the moment.
That's a really good topic to bring up, and maybe we could dwell on the idea of burnout, because as a guy here who's tried to do Instagram in the past, a couple years ago I ran a successful Instagram account, grew to a couple thousand followers. I was very happy with it, but Instagram's algorithm ended up bonking that account. It started to lose views and things. But I went through some periods myself of burnout, months that I was really high on it and doing very well, and then others where, you start to, you see some accounts get shadow banned, or the rest, whatever anyone's thoughts are on that, or it just slips out of the algorithm and stops being shown to the audience that you had. I found those periods to be quite difficult, but within myself, if I kept myself to a posting schedule, let's say every day I was doing 7 p.m., a really prime time in the United States, that was working out for me. Do you have methods to get over those stages of burnout? Scheduling, maybe? And I guess what I'm really trying to ask here is, are you someone that schedules in advance, or do you do more of an ad hoc, I guess based on the time of day you post in the last calendar? Maybe I have my answer, but I'll let you extrapolate on that one if you want to talk about how you go through those periods, or how far even in advance you might schedule things.
So in terms of facts, that's something where I can do a week in advance. So that's something I try to somewhat advance to kind of pre-prepare them. But obviously, the sort of thing where we worked, or myself in particular, worked really hard over time to kind of refine the templates and things like that. So it's a very easy on the go. Like wherever I am, I can create all the content I make. Where I've kind of worked on Photoshop to create the templates, so they're very accessible and very easy to use. So that kind of reduces the limitations of doing things ad hoc if I want to. There are definitely times I slip up, but I think noting back to the burnout thing, it's been 8 years. There was definitely periods in which I kind of felt that it wasn't hitting anymore. But then kind of what hit me the most was when, so obviously it's relative for me, but when I was around 40,000, which is massive, and it seems ungrateful to be like, oh, only 40,000, I'm stuck around 40,000. But for a better part, for about half a year, I couldn't grow. And there's some periods where I was losing followers quite drastically, where sometimes I'd get to like 41,000, and in a matter of about a month, I'd be down to 38, where I'd lose hundreds of followers in a week, and I'd be posting several times a day, but I couldn't, for some reason, I wasn't getting the followers. Posted do relatively well, but it just almost couldn't counter whatever it was doing. So I've definitely had fights with the algorithms, and there's definitely been periods I'm thinking, why bother? Like, it kind of felt fruitless, where I could post so many times in a day, but nothing's happening. And I think ultimately, there's not one piece of advice that really works for the Instagram algorithm. It goes through periods of preferring certain things to others. But I think the one thing I have seen is that consistency is the main thing. And that's one thing I kind of realize, is that even when I feel disheartened and burnt out, my attitude was, if I stop, I lose it all, because Instagram is very punishing if you don't post consistently or you stop for a while. It's very hard to get back on that bandwagon once you kind of hop off it. So it's something where my motivation was really, I got to keep posting at least once or twice a day, or that 40,000, all I've worked for, could really be impossible to continue on. So I just stuck it out, and sooner or later, just things flipped. And I can't say I knew the exact science behind it, but one day it just flipped.
I think that's a very good thing to describe for people. I'm sure there are many creators out there, some who are very new to content creation at large, who struggle with that feeling of sort of loss whenever they stop growing, or like you described, periods where it feels like the algorithm almost punishes you, that you are losing people instead of gaining them. And I think that's just something maybe we could talk about here for a moment for all potential content creators and the rest, that those things are natural. They will happen even if you're doing your best work. That's why I even brought it up at the very start of this episode, is that we have creators out there across TikTok and Instagram, YouTube, and the rest, who were putting out amazing work, original work, detailed and engaging work. But then those things get deprioritized in the algorithm over maybe just another TikTok dance video or something very superficial. I think if I have one gripe of algorithms at large, it's that it's sort of the lowest common denominator a lot of them will aim for, that the most agreeable, the most simplistic thing will tend to do great. Memes are a wonderful example of that. Something short and relatable will do wonderful, but someone who goes and makes like a full Fallout audio drama, for example, can have a really hard time getting traction, though they're making something that might be as good as what Bethesda's pumping out. It can just be a challenge to find them in it. So I think that's really good for you to bring that topic up, for especially anyone out there that doesn't have even 40,000 followers. And something to mention, that's always going to be a psychological element in our heads. As much as you'll hear people say, don't worry about the numbers, I think that's a very noble ambition, but also when you are creating content, the algorithm, every platform, let me say, actually, is really good at pushing those numbers in your face. They always tell you, are you doing good or bad? Like, is your number on the way up or is it on the way down? YouTube, for example, hits people right on the dashboard with that, which can be a demotivating sort of experience when you say, I know this video was better than my last, or I know I put just as much effort in. I know it came out just as good as previous ones, but it doesn't catch in the community. And so I think that's really good of you to bring that up for people. It's probably very motivating. It's motivating me right now just to hear another creator talk about that sort of pain, if you will. And how was that for you? Was there anything you did in that time when you were losing people? Did you kind of mentioned you just stay on track, stay on target, keep going, keep posting. But how was that for you to see that? Did your team maybe at all react, if you had them at the time, whenever you were losing? Was that a worry that you guys discussed? Was like, hey, we're trying, but it's not working? I leave that kind of open to you to answer that however you might like, but it just very much interests the nerd here, and I know we got a lot of these nerds out in the audience.
Yes, the thing that's the thing. We had within the team. There's a few communications about this. So at the time, I think when that happened, there was a couple others on Civil Fallout. So that time I brought people on just I think earlier on than that to kind of support. And definitely the conversation came up once or twice. We're kind of saying, is it time to get the bucket in? It's not. It's hard to kind of keep pushing content that's not really hitting anymore. Maybe we had our heyday. Maybe the content we're doing doesn't really reach anymore. And do we want to drastically change? Not really. That's kind of what we do. So we're not particularly interested in just abandoning everything we're doing just for the sake of pleasing it. So I think one of the most important things that really came to it, and there's the consistency element as well, is that you've touched on as well there quite well, saying about the 40,000. And I think that's the difficult part, is that people think, if they think 40,000, or they think they think of a number, but forgetting those are people. They are not just kind of those numbers behind a screen that kind of, oh, it's ticking up, it's ticking down. And it's something I had as well when I hit 100,000, where there was definitely a moment of deflation, saying, oh, I've hit 100,000 now, and I felt a bit demotivated, saying the thing I've worked years for, and I'm kind of like, oh, what's next? But then remembering that very moment, saying, well, actually, it's not just 100,000 as a number; it is 100,000 people who enjoy the content. So that's then is kind of a sudden flip of a switch. So you actually, and that's really what got us through some of those dark periods of kind of saying that, yeah, sure, we're losing followers and such, but we still have all those people who still enjoy the content. So obviously, there's still people behind the kind of screens enjoying the content. So that's all the more reason to keep pushing on and to keep trying to make sure that we can kind of get beyond this point, because they're sticking around. So we're going to keep giving them what they're after because they're still here.
That's really great to hear you say. I like that element that you're reiterating on humanizing the audience. You're very right. The way that let's say content creator gurus, which is a huge avenue on the internet, people who want to tell other content creators how to do it right, how to do it best. A lot of that information, I feel, winds up being very superficial. Not all of it by any stretch, maybe not even half of it, but there is a significant chunk that feels very superficial, very smash and grab style, like, hey, you need to make something viral and it's got to do great, and if it doesn't, get out of the hobby. I mean, I've heard that advice about YouTube. If it's not working in the first whatever, get out. And that's what I was describing earlier that I'm very opposed to, is that puts numeric success above actual passion. And I like that you said a moment ago, this is what we're here for. This is what we like. We're doing what we like. And sometimes that's just as simple as figuring out a way to mesh both the algorithm's desire into what you're doing. But that's so good to call out, because these conversations, again, I just feel like a lot of creators are not exposed to them. I think a lot of content creators, we can easily feel like we're working in a silo by ourselves. Now, you've got a team behind you, but of course did not start out that way, and doesn't for most people. Rarely does someone start creating content with a team behind them unless they got like a lot of money up front somehow to hire. So I think rehumanizing the audience, recognizing that you're really making something for people, is very important. And I'll just say before I pass it back to you that, a lot of times I'm here recommending to people that they comment on someone's video. I always talk about we're sort of battling the algorithm. If you love someone's content, it can be really motivating just to tell them good job. I think we already know pretty psychologically and statistically across the internet that most reviews, or a significant chunk, are by people who are upset with things. You get a lot of 1-star reviews on products, but it's harder to get people who just type out that they enjoy it, because if they're enjoying it, they're just doing that. They're listening, they're following along, but maybe they don't take that extra time to leave a note. And so just kind of a general statement to anyone out there listening, whether you're a creator or you're an absorber of content yourself, a viewer, give people that extra little heads up. Tell them what you like, tell them what you enjoyed. And that's something I've really woven into my everyday experience when I'm watching YouTube videos. I like to make sure if it's something I really love, I'm trying to pay attention to the watch time, even from my part as the viewer. I'm like, I enjoy this. I'm going to make sure I finish this out so that this creator gets that feedback on their back end. And I like to leave a little comment below just saying, hey, you did this really well. great thumbnail, whatever it is, because sometimes it's all that little push that we need. And I wonder if you have any experiences like that with, maybe people in your audience, if they've ever, I don't know, like sort of stepped up and helped motivate you. And I guess I also want to take this to the next, we're going to segue to the next question soon enough, but this is getting to me also asking how do some of those people start working with you, whether they're cosplayers that want to be featured in your content, or whether there's someone that approaches you because they want to help make memes or things like that. How has that really human element worked for you, going from single creator and now bringing other people on?
There's a couple of different aspects to this. So I think one of the best ones I can really give is that. So obviously, as I kind of noted before, that what's happened is some of the pages are transitioned, or some of the civil pages transitioned to be more kind of individual leading than personality. So obviously, I'm Oliver / Civil Fallout. So I'm kind of taking on full ownership of the page again. So it's kind of just me kind of posting everything. So all the content's mine to be blamed for. Now on Civil Scrolls, it's a similar element. So Michael, for example, he wasn't there from the beginning. He reached out to me when I was doing the Civil Scrolls saying, I really enjoy making Elder Scrolls memes. I enjoy this sort of content. How can I get involved? And so what's happened is across the couple of years of kind of that's happened is I now know him in person. We've attended events together. So it's kind of really gone from that kind of someone just reaching out saying, really enjoy the content. How can I get involved? To someone who's now pretty much spearheading, I think it's currently our largest page, because they just showed that passion for it. So there's definitely an element of where something as simple as just reaching out saying, hey, love the stuff, enjoy this sort of content just like you do, to suddenly being such an integral part of our team and getting involved and working together, where kind of to toot our own horn, we've been invited to stuff officially kind of as a kind of a collective because of how we've been working together, how we've kind of grown as a team. So it's a kind of a strange thing to kind of see something as small of a message escalate all the way to being just such close teammates, realistically.
Oh, that's wonderful. For people out there listening to this, you might find a lot of similarity with our last interview where we had a Marty on, who is a cosplayer from California here in the US. And he had a great experience, just to share a tiny bit of his, where he reached out. The TV show Lost was doing I think a decade anniversary sort of documentary. And he just reached out something to the director and just sent a simple message. And he got brought on to help design props for the documentary. He got invited out to the Los Angeles premiere of it. So it was just as simple as, I believe, an Instagram message is what he said. You really can open doors just by talking to people. And before I guess the last thing I want to say on that is that they're also making a cosplay group, him and 3 or 4 others. And I think that's something beautiful, because I'm starting to hear that time and time again as I talk to more Fallout creators, that it's just a simple message is all it takes a lot of the time. And that if you find people of interest who share the same kind of goals and directions as you, that's more hands, that's more manpower. You can do a lot with that. And I think this is a great time to maybe bring this up. I saw you were recently invited to, where was this? Bethesda UK did this, I believe. If you want to talk about this, also Bethesda Nordic you tagged. But seems like you got to do a cool crossover with them, huh?
Yeah, so fortunately what's happened is, so we're saying as well about kind of, it's just a simple message. So, God, I think it began over a year ago now. We basically reached out, or I messaged them on Twitter, I think, something as simple as hey, like, you should follow us. And it was something such a kind of a obtrusive, such a random message, like, hey, you just follow, like, we, for example, we're UK based, it's great to chat to you guys. And from there, it began to, I think we got invited on behalf of the Civil Scrolls team, we got invited across to the Elder Scrolls Online 10 anniversary event last year to their office. We've invited to look around their office. And quite recently, we were invited to talk through kind of experiences on Elder Scrolls Online and what's our thoughts about playing it. So very Elder Scrolls focused at the moment, because that's naturally what they're working on. But as I was saying a second ago, it's just something simple, especially with Michael, where it was just a message. And now him and I kind of work quite closely as a team, because we both enjoy Elder Scrolls, to kind of attend different stuff with Bethesda. And again, as I was saying, just a message where we just reached out to Bethesda saying, hey, like, we make content, it's good to chat to you guys. And fortunately, they responded to us, and they're quite positive, and they didn't. I think we've asked them time and time again, do you look at our memes? And Twitch, they sometimes do kind of a casting eye, say, yes, we see your content, and yes, we do get sent your meme sometimes. So it's something simple where just a simple interaction can really escalate into being a foot in the door, whether it's kind of Michael into joining the team or us into interacting more with Bethesda just from a simple hello.
That's wonderful. That's a good encouragement to people out there. Don't be shy, especially if you yourself have been angling to be some sort of creator or the rest. Or again, if you're someone out there that has no ambitions of being a creator, but you just love the content that your favorite accounts are posting, don't be shy. Reach out to people. There is a human behind the screen. That's becoming harder to say in the day of AI, I suppose. But for a lot of this, there is a person behind the screen. And I think it's also really important that we as fandoms, as members in communities, also maybe really emphasize that. Not any sort of AI tangent here, but just to say in a day and age where we do see gaming companies at large shifting more to artificial intelligence, I think it can be good to reassert your humanity. Just the other day, I was on the Bethesda Gear shop. I added something to my cart, and I got a text shortly after from the Bethesda shop saying, "Hey, you forgot something." And I just messaged back something, and it seemed so much like a human at first, but very quickly was discerned as an AI. It was asking things like, well, what do you like about Fallout? Like, what's some merch you'd like to have up on the shop? And I answered it authentically, and it's like, oh, well, thanks for telling me, but I can't pass any of this along. And then it asked me another question like, yeah, so what else would you like to see? And I'm like, well, pause here, Mr. AI bot. Like, you're asking me at infinitum what items I want to see on a shop, but you're also not able to pass it along. So I think it's maybe good for us to keep these brands and their teams engaged with the community too. I know Fallout over the years has gone through some phases like that where they've had community managers and then they've been let go, and then we're in all these different phases of it. So kind of just, I guess, a general call out that reassert your humanity, chat with one another. This is all about making community after all, isn't it? And yeah. So here's another one. With all these creators that you've started to highlight up here on the page, do you find that any of them, so like if these videos here, how do they go about sending stuff like this to you? Is it something they actually say, hey, I'd like you to share this? Or do you sort of farm that from the content that you're already following? Who does the outreach for any kind of cross-post or communication?
So this whole thing really began, I think it was over a year ago, where we started to kind of realize that kind of we became very self-aware of our size and about the impact we had, but then recognized the difficulties that others were having to kind of get that same sort of reach, because naturally a cosplayer can't spam several memes in a day because of the nature of their content. So I think I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I think it began with one or two accounts we really liked. We said, if you're posting something and a new collab features become available to us, we said, just add us as a collaborator. Just, we're happy to use our audience to broadcast what you're doing. And then what happened was a couple of people did it. A cosplayer saw that maybe their friend was doing that and reached out to us saying, can I do the same? And we said, yeah, of course. And we then became very aware of what we could do with that. And then we put open calls out, putting stories up saying, if you're a cosplayer, if you're an artist, if you're someone who's struggling to get, even if you just make memes as well, reach out to us. Add us, like, we can have the conversation. We could do collaboration with you, whether we kind of it's a matter of where we turn your content into meme, or we do kind of a rejoint effort, or you just want to just add someone to extend the audience. Now, there's some cosplayers who get a little cheeky, and before even an initial message, they just add us as a collaborator tweet, which we say we are human. So maybe just a hello, it's just quite nice to just kind of get the ball rolling. But pretty much all these collaborators are people who I've really began to meet through kind of cosplayers to cosplayers, and it's not only helped me kind of give some of them the platform they deserve, but also helped me become aware of people who I previously not known of, because really see the algorithm just hide them, but it's actually allowed me to meet and interact with people, especially in New Vic Day last year. There's people I met there because of the work I'd done with them to collaborate with them through kind of people I've met on mutuals, and now the people I know relatively well and I chat with in different group chats.
I love hearing that. That is, you're the third interview for this show, and we haven't even launched it formally yet. By the time this is going up, we haven't put the first episode out. But just to say how quick the Fallout community was to volunteer their time, their energy, and just, I don't know, that means a lot in a space where everyone's time is so crunched and absorbed, just to have people so willing and eager to work together. I think that Instagram having those collaborator posts is one of the smartest decisions the platform has done, or at least one of the kindest decisions that the platform has done. Because I've had, I mean, I don't know how many people in this interview or such would know this, but with the Fallout TTRPG we play, that's created by a company called Modifius. They made it with Bethesda, and the Modifius account is always resharing other TTRPG players. If I send them a collaborator post, they are keen to get in on it. Even their community manager chimed in on one of the calls to actions for this. It might have been the same one you responded to, but it's really cool when brands, especially who have a platform, and brands maybe we sometimes see them as very sterile, or they kind of sometimes sequester themselves, hide away, don't interact with the audience, don't reshare things. I like it when they do. It's all the more impactful when they do the extra step. It's, in my opinion, it's on their best interest to foster the community. That's kind of a free way for them to keep publicity going. It's ads without them having to spend money on it. So I like that Bethesda has pretty well been open to that for a very long time. They've even got better at it. I used to do stuff with Elder Scrolls Online years ago, and back then they didn't have ambassador programs or anything like that. It was pretty hard to get some of that done, and it just seems like they've really stepped up their game. And now we see, with the TV show out there for Fallout, that we've got even more community events coming about, fan-made ones, etc. It's just a really, I feel like, very good time to be in and around this fandom. If you've liked Fallout in the past, it seems like it's only getting to be a richer experience to be a part of. Now, we are a little bit, I've talked your ear off and vice versa. We're getting at the 45-minute mark already, if you can believe it. So maybe we could, I'd like to ask you maybe some quick fire questions here. You don't have to have like the strongest answer to these, because we have out the type of content you created, what was your favorites out of it, and the rest. So you can be as specific or as loose as you want. But then after this, we'll give you some time to make sure you promote your work. I know people have already seen it up on the screen if they're watching this in video, but if they're listening in podcast, I'll give you plenty of time to shout out where you'd like them to go. But given what you've said to us today, between facts and all the rest, do you have a favorite type of content to create? Is there something that you still feel really fired up and passionate about in particular?
So it's tempting to say facts, but it's always fun to learn new things. But I think my favorite has to be confessions. There's some confessions that I can't share because people send horrible things in, and some of the things people say is, Instagram will take me down for saying it. So some of you need a priest, not me, to confess to. But
that's a good one.
but realistically, I think confession has always been my favorite. Seeing it's touching to see some of them say about their childhood experiences and confessions, but also some kind of saying something as silly as saying, I forgot, I didn't know how to run. I didn't know I could run in Fallout 4 until I was like 20. So something as silly as that, kind of getting kind of quite grounded experiences from others about how they've experienced the games, where I know I've had some quite silly experiences myself with playing Elder Scrolls where I didn't know what over-encumbered meant. So I just thought I'd messed it up, and I kept reloading the game until someone said, that means you're carrying too much. So I've had my own silly experiences as well. So
that's great. That's a really good answer. I like that. Okay. Next one here, and I know your focus is Fallout, but seeing as you're overseeing so much of this, which game community do you think has been the most engaging to work with? Let's even keep that maybe to a recent window of like the last maybe year or two. I'm trying to avoid the Fallout TV show window, but with or without the idea of the Fallout TV show, which community has been the most engaging just across the board?
In terms of the community, I'd probably say, even though not to be biased, I'd say the Fallout community have always been very engaging, very interactive. From the creators in terms of the cosplayers, the kind of the level of interaction the community is, from what I've seen, is relatively unmatched. And although I've seen my own fair share of drama kind of in the years gone by, it's still in my opinion, been very engaging, very welcoming as well to new people. So even though there are other communities I'm part of and I enjoy being kind of involved with, there's been none that have really matched the level of kind of willingness to support others, the willingness to kind of shout out and support other creators, where I've not seen that much kind of toxicity between kind of, you do get some fandoms that are very anti kind of new content, old content. And if you scrape away kind of this whole New Vegas versus everything else kind of dynamic, if you scrape that away, the community is very welcoming to new people, and it's one of those communities that I just enjoy posting content for, because there's always something that someone appreciates, someone always leave a kind word, and it's also one of the communities where I found the most receptive, especially for kind of shouting at cosplayers and artists, where people are not kind of get this off my feed. They're very much like, oh, fantastic stuff, I'm going to go follow them.
That makes sense. I came to Fallout late myself. I was much longer in life, probably a good 10 years longer in life, an Elder Scrolls fan, from Oblivion to Skyrim and Elder Scrolls Online. And then really for me, I mean, this is my Fallout confession that I tell a lot, is that I didn't get into Fallout until 76, which I know people have their rightful or otherwise biases against 76, but for me, it was about having some multiplayer aspects that really got me into it. And I quickly saw how kind the community was. We were playing it over on Twitch, and I would just have people like pile in, and we'd fill up public servers full of friends and friends of friends. And it was just a really loving space. So I really empathize with that message there. I think that's really, really true. And I don't know if this one's going to be exceptionally hard for you to answer, because picking favorites usually is. But do you have one piece of content in mind, maybe recent, even if you want to give it some stipulation, that you're most proud of creating? And that could be something like maybe you reshared someone in particular that really needed a big boost and a takeoff, or maybe it was even some stylistic change that you decided to do that has shifted your content. But yeah, would there be anything that you might call as a real standout in the crowd of posts that you've done?
I think it's something. So the content's been going on for a long time, and if you look back to my older stuff, it's very archaic, wasn't very well laid out, and I think I made it in some like sketching app and saying, "Oh, this is a fact of Fallout." So one of the most recent changes we did was, for example, our news formats that they recently changed, or we've undergone recent renovations to our fact templates and made sure they're cleaner. So it's something where it's hard to say exactly that one thing is better, but between our facts and our news, just kind of that renovation aspect, where we're always trying to improve the templates, make sure they look as good as they can. And I think that's one thing I'm particularly proud of, is about how they've kind of come out and how people have especially received them, because I never like the idea of kind of settling. This is a joke one, by the way. Don't take but I think, God, I think it's. I'm saying I fill my feed with memes. It's hard sometimes to go back and find an example. But I think
Hey.
I think it's a level of kind of, we always try to keep making sure that our templates are improved. So I think it's just that element of kind of the way that the news and the facts have been kind of changed and adapted over time from when the early conception, where they were very messy.
That makes sense to me.
I see you still scrolling.
Oh yeah, I'm just caught up in enjoying, like, looking through all of it. I could spend all day going through piecemeal. But I honestly, as a fellow creator, feel like having a template can be a big push. Like, once you have something that you can repeat, and especially something you find fun to repeat, that can be, for me, all the difference between thinking about it in my head and actually turning it into something real. I think for a lot of creators, the idea of having to make something fresh and always completely different, that can be a real drain on your mental reserves. It's one of those things that you get defeated maybe before you even begin. So I really like the idea that you've brought up templates on here quite a bit, because I don't know, I think maybe that's something a lot of people who are newer to creation may not think about. That you can make something that is still really engaging, really fun, really catchy. In fact, this account here is a really great example in a similar fashion, I might say. This is Fallout on Vinyl we're looking at. And I think their videos are exceptionally cool, because I always know approximately what I'm going to get. Number one, jealousy. I'm going to get jealousy. I'm looking at their set like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But it really paints a brand image too. You know, I know exactly what I'm going to get. It's going to be different music. It's going to be cool new shots of it. But it's the same flair. It's the same aesthetic, and it really is. It draws me in. So I think there's a lot to that from creators all across the board. Now, as we get into the very tail of this interview space, I do want to ask future plans. Do you have any ideas in particular, or even sort of nebulous ideas of what direction you might be aiming to grow out into next? And I'm not asking you to spoil any secrets here by any means, but you clearly are someone who has a very good understanding of where you started and where you are now. So I'm curious, this is, I guess, a sort of open-ended goals question for you. We're at the midpoint of 2025. We've got a new season of the TV series coming up this year. As a TTRPG guy, I'm excited because they're teasing us that we're going to get new Fallout, like West Coast-based stuff. So I think a lot of creators have either tangible goals or nebulous goals for 2025, 2026. Do you have any, however? Where might you take Civil to in the next year or so?
So I think the best kind of point kind of to raise is that, so obviously I'm here doing this for you and kind of recording and kind of the Oliver slash Fallout, but that was kind of put myself forward as a person was quite a recent change, where kind of a couple of years back it was anonymous. I think I had like an alias I went by, and I didn't show my face very often other than kind of the occasional live. So it's something I kind of kept myself with back a little bit. And it's only quite recently I began to kind of be like, this is Oliver slash Fallout, kind of giving myself more of a personality. So kind of naturally then began to go to events for the first time as myself, go to things like Comic-Con, representing at events. And so the next step really is kind of to continue that kind of mission, that kind of shift a little bit, where kind of through the likes of finally actually establishing a proper streaming schedule on Twitch, or whether it's doing more kind of YouTube videos where I kind of bring on other admins or other people that I kind of know to talk things through. So that's probably the next step, is kind of progressing that new shift in content to say that, again, I'm not just a bot posting out facts daily or making memes daily, that at the end of the day, I'm Oliver and I enjoy Fallout and also enjoy Elder Scrolls. And so does the rest of my team. So we're going to continue then kind of that shift to more personality driven content, where pretty much the main focus will be things like Twitch. We'll begin to kind of do more streams and things like that. So that's really the best place to say is the direction forward is streaming, I'd say. Long answer.
That's a fantastic answer. That is so good. That sort of puts the capstone on all the things we've talked about throughout the episode, humanizing the audience and humanizing yourself in there. Really big aspect to it. Honestly, I think this is my guess, I think that's going to be very beneficial for you guys going forward, because it's easy to forget a meme account when it doesn't have, I hate to focus on this word, but it doesn't have strong branding. It's maybe inconsistent, but you've addressed that with scheduling, with templates. But I think even more important, if you're willing and able now to put your face to it, people remember faces better than they do some generic kind of account that's just aggregating content from across the internet. So I think, just from hearing you say that right now, that's a really great decision. And I have to put the joke in here that in your post we showed earlier, it did not slip past me that some of the comments on the side, oh no, he's hot, hotties, gamer baddies, fave bromance. So yeah, it goes on and on and on. Actually, this is, wow, you guys can go check that out, read all the comments for yourselves. But it would seem that that this has been a good direction in face reveal, and that is kind of its own, I guess, subculture across meme accounts, right? The admin reveal and things like that. So I'm really excited for you. I think that's phenomenal that you're doing it. For some people, that's a very brave step. I know not everyone's comfortable on camera, but now you're getting invited to events and things like that. I'm really happy to hear that for you guys. It's exceptionally well deserved, and maybe even more important than that is that you are directing it all right back at the community, that you've made it very clear through your actions that this is not just about self-aggrandizement. It's not just about like, how many followers can we get, but about highlighting and uplifting other people. So that makes me really happy to have you on the show to discuss all of this. You've made my nerdy, tech-loving, content-creating heart happy. You've really covered a lot of topics that I think may very well inspire a lot of new creators to come up and step up out there. I think you said something a little earlier, too, which was, I think you said in passing that creators and such come and go over the years. For anyone that's been following these spaces for 8 years, for example, you've seen a lot of streamers step into these positions, step out of them, real life comes up, housing situations change, streaming schedules change with jobs, all the rest. And I think there's something to be said that there's nothing like starting today. If you start today, you don't know where you're going to be tomorrow, 10 months, whatever it is. You might be invited to some Bethesda event within the next year. Who knows? And you won't find that out unless you're brave enough to just send off that message, start posting something. And Oliver, I think this would be a great time. Actually, two things. One, if you would like to shout out any creators out there in particular that you admire, or they could be someone that you also work with, you could even just shout out some of your other co-creators on your team. But I always like to give people a chance to shout out other folks that we may not know about, especially accounts that do inspire you. And then you can, by all means, plug and tag all your stuff here at the end. But first, who do you find inspiring out there? Are there any accounts that you really love checking out or referencing often?
I think that's quite an easy answer for me. And these are kind of some people that were they were kind of the giants when I started, and they're kind of people who inspired me to kind of really kick off my own content years back. So, but fortunately, I now kind of can call them friends. So I hope to think they call me the same. So those are the likes of Tanatix Fall, Fault True Facts, and Gore City, where what began as kind of some people inspired me in kind of the content they create, I've now kind of consider them friends. We've met up in Vegas. We've gone on like little mini road trips around the Mojave. So they're probably some of the people I'd probably say I want to shout out the most, of people who've inspired me, but I now associate quite strongly with. And in terms of obviously things to plug, I've obviously got to plug pretty much the main thing is that main link, the main thing you showed me at the beginning. That's where everything is happening. That's every platform we're pretty much on. Now I do have an account on iPhone still. I don't know why I created that. That was years ago. Don't blame me for that. And there is a Tumblr account. But apart from that, this is everything that's worth checking out that we do. And as I said, draw the attention in particular to the Twitch, which is where kind of the main next step in our content will be coming soon. And when I can finally carve out the actual time, a streaming schedule will soon be properly coming.
That's lovely to hear. Oliver, thank you so much for coming on to the show here. Thank you for giving me your time, and I'm glad that this was sort of another experience for you to be on camera and doing the rest. And I always love to say to my guests, if you had fun here, you're always welcome back. This is something we are just starting, something we're just beginning to grow. I've been inspired for, let's say, a decade plus by similar shows out there. There was one about World of Warcraft that really inspired me forever ago when I was a teenager. And I've always just admired people who could pull together some sort of community effort, draw out a space for people to promote themselves, to be fellow content creators, bridge that gap from us all just being siloed, and make it all something a little bit more communal. So I thank you for coming on here, and I leave you with saying that it's an open door if you ever want to come back, and it's an open door for other friends of yours, other followers that may be attending and viewing your content, that if you came over here for Oliver, sound off below. Tell us if you make something. Tell us if you're interested in coming on here, or give us some more names for creators that you admire and you'd like to see interviewed. This is a share and share like space, and we want to keep it that way. We want to amplify it. And if you're doing stuff over there on Twitch, Oliver, I am myself trying to get back on that bandwagon soon enough when I've got a little more time and scheduling too. So maybe we could always do something over on there in the future. That would be really, really fun to me. But for everyone else out there listening, thank you so much for joining us. I'll probably have a little tail off to the episode in just a minute after the break. But this is where I'll let you go for today, Oliver. We can press end here, send you on your way, and wish you the very best of success with Civil in all of its various forms. So thank you again for your time. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to our interview with Oliver. Absolutely a blast to record. I have loved sitting down with all of these Fallout guests that we've had on the show. The energy in the community is just so palpable. And I want to leave a last reminder to you all that if you enjoyed this, give it a big old thumbs up. Leave me a comment below telling me someone else that you'd like to see interviewed on the show. It's a perfect time for you to help other creators out there get some exposure. And if you're a creator yourself, chime in there. Let me know. I am completely open to it. And if anyone wants to go ahead the extra mile and fill out their intake form for this show, you can just go straight over to overseerkyle.com, click on the Vault broadcast icon, and bada bing, bada boom, you'll find all the links to it. But most importantly for this conversation, a submission form at the very bottom of the page. And that's how we'll get you in there. I'll send out a scheduling link and all the rest. Now, if you're someone that wants to support us in our growth, getting us that office space that I've been talking about at infinitum, we are getting so close to doing it. If you could go over to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/overseer Kyle, you could subscribe at a monthly basis. We offer some really cool perks. We're going to start a digital zine. We are doing some bonus episodes and content in there. And ultimately, we're going to branch out to a physical zine mailed to your house, vault-tec style, cool collectibles in there. I just really want it to be something that people be proud to show off as a prop of their own. So if you want to see that materialize, if you want to see us move into a real recording studio, we would just love it. Again, ko-fi.com/overseer Kyle. I know this audience out there loves to help lift up creators in this space. And this is a passion project, something truly out of love. I've just had a wonderful opportunity to branch out, and I really want to do it. It's really lovely. We want to host some in-person Fallout TTRPG games there in the future. I got to furnish an entire office once I get in there, so it's going to be a little much. But that place has such a cool room that looks like an overseer's office. I think a lot of you are just going to lose your minds when you see it. And if you want to get an early tour of it, you can go to you can go over to our Tales from Tomorrow page and check out the Overseer's log. I think it's Overseer's log 16, 15, one of those. It's 15. I do so much now in the week that I forget. Overseer log 15 has tours of the office. And I'm just so thankful to all of you. And again, if you can't do any sort of financial contribution, please don't feel stressed. Please don't hurt your bank account in the process. You can, again, give a thumbs up, give a comment below, share it with friends. Word of mouth is one of the most powerful tools for this. Or put it on any of your social medias, Instagram, TikTok, all the rest. Lovely ways to get the word out there. I can't thank you all enough for all your time, dedication, and energy. All I can say is, until next time, everybody, you stay safe out there in the wasteland. Bye-bye.